Hi there. I'm going to do a review for Alien vs. Predator Requiem, otherwise known as Alien vs. Predator 2. This movie came out in 2007 and more or less direct sequel to Alien vs. Predator. This movie is it's kind of hard to talk about because I think what should have been a fairly decent sequel to otherwise. I mean, there was nothing really huge about Alien vs. Predator. There was nothing really amazing about it. But this movie here took the depths of silliness to an all new high. I mean, I couldn't. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure what the point is of this movie other than to have us have face off between aliens and a Predalien, if I remember right. Predalien. That was the hybrid alien predator thing. More or less, the joke story is that this thing ends up where the last movie ended up because the ship from the first movie that took off and then the predator, the alien hatched inside the predator, and we get our predalien. And of course, it causes problems on the ship it's on, and they crash into Colorado. And of course, the crash produces a whole problem where the face huggers get loose and the predalien's on the loose. Um, I'm not entirely sure what. I think this is the most obvious fan film you could ever make. Not only does it not make a whole heck of a lot of sense, in fact, hardly anything in this movie makes any sense. Um, Again, why did the Predators not have better protection, better equipment for dealing with aliens? Don't know. It doesn't really matter in a way because this is what happens. You get an alien, a bunch of alien face huggers racing off into the forest, and now they get a chance to take on the humans. Ordinarily speaking, this would not have been a real threat to humanity. But in movies like this would be a real threat to humanity. Because an obvious choice is that why are the aliens so tough in these movies? I mean, the first Alien movie established that indeed they are powerful, they are quick in a zone, in given against a bunch of more largely defenseless people. But as the movies went on, they gradually indicated that there is a limit to their ruthlessness. But it's actually really funny in this movie because this movie takes it to another extreme is that it does not know what to do with itself. The entire premise is sitting around the idea that now the humans are in extreme danger because all these face huggers got loose. The face huggers, of course, are going to snatch up humans and ingest and implant them, and it's gonna be an amazing movie, obviously. But why the way the humans respond, of course, is a little slow because it takes a good long time for the human race for anybody in the town to even begin to realize that there's anything actually wrong going on. That's the problem with these movies is that I think the main problem with almost all the alien movies, like the alien movies, got away with it because that's how they ran. This movie here is under this guise that nobody would notice, but I guess they didn't really notice for the longest time that there was anything actually wrong going on because, of course, as people get picked off one after another by face huggers and get impregnated and things start happening, it does take a certain amount of time for anybody to realize that there's something matter. But of course, the military knows that there's something wrong. They've got a cue ball on this. They know there's something wrong. They, for some reason, decide to send in a National Guard unit because that's obviously the thing you want to do when you're dealing with this. And of course, they didn't tell them anything, so of course they get picked off one after another. It's just a completely ridiculous movie because I think the entire purpose of this was just a fan film. Somebody wanted to make a fan film. The 2000s was that wonderful, awful time of fan films because after the 80s and 90s created these concepts, these genres, and all these ideas, what you get in the 2000s is a whole bunch of films like some films that just cap it off to pretend that this was just awesomeness, like but it's really the problem is that the comics flared up in the 1980s and 90s when Predator and Alien came out. A bunch of comics and fan material came out for all these genres, And the result is that it becomes a bit of a mess because they can't seem to decide in this movie what they want to do with this concept. And it becomes a bit of a problem because, of course, you can't really do anything with it. You can't really do very much with this concept. The aliens, of course, would only be dangerous if it was night out, which, of course, it is in this movie. By the time anything bad starts happening, it's becoming obvious that things are starting to happen. But they're running that. The basic premise is that the humans start getting the sensation that something is really, really wrong. But, of course, it doesn't help that the military is utterly incompetent for dealing with this problem, and that the predator is trying to cover all of his tracks, because the predator is trying. There is a predator sent to try and deal with this mess and cover its tracks and get rid of all the problems. But of course that doesn't work out for it, because of course it's written to be a predator alien movie. So everything's a little bit out of place. Everything's a little bit slow to happen. Nonetheless, we get the usual thing. There is one scene in this movie I really found distasteful. It's when the pred alien finds a pregnant woman in the hospital, because of course they get a hospital. Of course there is. But they get into the hospital and the pred alien finds a pregnant woman and implants her. Of course, this scene is completely illogical because she gets implanted from the stomach, which I'm not entirely sure if the people who wrote this movie understood anatomy for anything, is before it sort of made sense where they were coming from. Unfortunately, because the writers of this movie don't seem to either know anatomy or care too much, or assume that the audience doesn't care enough to know, is that the way to implant a pregnant woman is not up through the mouth. It would be the other direction, because that's directly into where the babies are. The impregnation happens, sends it down, must be the stomach, although I don't know what they're planning to do. It's to deal with the babies. It's just totally ridiculous. Another ridiculous scene is that the fact that as time goes by, the aliens and the humans are dealing with each other, and of course the military realizes it's a lost cause, because of course we sent in the lousiest troops without any idea of what they were getting themselves into. And of course this is supposed to represent respectful armsness. I was like, of course, they bring in the nuclear weapon, which is supposed to cap off their victory. But in reality, I don't know if a nuclear weapon would do that much to this scene. The I mean, that is really where the problem starts with this movie, is that they just cannot seem to figure out what to do. The military should have been able to deal with this relatively easily, but of course it can't deal with this very well at all. It does not know what it's doing. It basically ends up with a disjointed mess of a plot where you got a bunch of teenagers who end up figuring out that something is really bad is going on and have to deal with all that stuff. But of course they don't know what to do or how to do it. But nonetheless, problematic film. I don't know what else to say. It's just a mess. It's just a mess of a film. It does not know how to be a Predator movie. It does not know how to be an Alien movie, other than the fact that aliens are running around and Predators are trying to go after them. Other than that, it's just a stupid action movie. Without a brain in its head, it does not know how to think. The U.S. military, and of course, is utterly useless trash. Doesn't know what it's doing. Guess it could have been worse. I just don't see how it could have been much worse. It's just, I didn't see much use in this film. This starts out relatively it starts out a certain amount of promise, but it quickly devolves into the aliens just take over everything, because of course the humans just don't know how to deal with it. I don't know. Don't know if it's recommendable at all. If you want to see Alien versus Predator silliness, this is the movie for you. If you want to see anything serious, it's nothing. I don't know. It's a strange film to watch. It doesn't make a lick of sense. It doesn't really mean anything on the larger scale of things, because it doesn't go anywhere. This is the last film of this genre. I think after this movie, they realized there was no plot. The audiences, I don't think, gravitated toward it very well, because it was just too much silliness, too much gratuity in this movie. Again, the kids are trying to figure out how to get out of this situation, and they're having problems because, of course, everybody else is incompetent. Yeah. I don't know. It's not a very good movie. It's certainly not really worth watching again. I've watched it maybe once, I think. I forget. But it's a very silly movie. It doesn't have much going on for it.